Welcome, everybody. I hope you are doing well. My name is Amin Quider, and I'm going to be the host for this Docu Cafe, which is like a webinar series my colleague Stuart Tanner and I are doing. We're both co-directors of the documentary MFA at MIU, and today we're very excited to bring to you documentary filmmaking and the spiritual dimension of documentary filmmaking. So this is part of a webinar series that we're doing. On October 1st, about 2 weeks ago, we did the AI and documentary filmmaking webinar, and it's going to be available to review fairly soon, so stay tuned for that. And then today, we're going to talk about the spiritual dimension of documentary filmmaking. And next webinar, November 5th, is the life of a documentary filmmaker. And on December 3rd, we're going to let you know about everything you need to know to potentially join our documentary MFA. So this is our page. This is a webpage. If you go to miu.edu/docmfa, you'll access the page. This is a new program that we're launching this spring. And we're doing this docu-series as part of that. So you get to know us and we get to know you. Just a quick word, MIU is Marshall International University, is accredited nonprofit university accredited by the Higher Learning Commission. You can ask questions via the Q&A function or in the chat. And we would hope to make this as interactive as possible. Usually Stuart and I will be chatting for a little while, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So today in the AI and documentary filmmaking, we'll talk about how presence, intuition, inner preparation guide the filmmaker's creative process, and especially in documentary film. So what do we mean by being spiritual, and how does that influence our work? And then also, how does that spirituality of documentary filmmaking guide our building authentic relationships and compassionate relationships with subjects and guided in awareness? And then we'll talk about the practices that we have at MIU and how we integrate these two levels of life, documentary filmmaking and the spiritual dimension of it. Okay, so I'm going to ask my colleague and friend, Stuart Tanner, to put his video on. And
hi, everybody.
Here we are, Stuart. So just to kind of get the word going with people, if you're able to access the chat, which I think attendees can chat with everyone. Okay, I just opened up the chat. Let us know where you're connecting from. Just give us a little. Would love to hear from you. Where are you connecting from? We have Austin, Texas. Wonderful. Welcome. We've got Woodstock, New York, Chicago, Illinois. Wonderful. Surprise, Arizona, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles. I think the person from Surprise was there last webinar as well. MIU cinema student in Detroit. Well, welcome. And we have Fairfield also, Fairfield, Iowa. This is where Stuart and I are both located. This is where MIU campus is located. Well, thanks for joining us all. And so my first question I have for you, Stuart, is what do we mean by the spiritual dimension of documentary filmmaking?
Yeah, it's not necessarily, what you'd think of, first of all, when you're thinking about documentary filmmaking. But so I think it's a good idea to start with talking about what we mean by it. So we use the word spiritual in the broadest sense of the word. It's not about any particular belief system or any particular path or any particular sort of way of thinking. It's more to do with other values, because when you make documentaries, really documentaries are centered around the human experience and all dimensions of the human experience, really. And so one of the things we like to do at MIU, and is part of our focus, is to provide a path for people to have a firm foundation in their inner life to be documentary filmmakers. Because documentary filmmaking is demanding and it takes you out into the world. You could end up anywhere in the world. You could end up looking at any subject in the world. It's a big place with many issues, many cultures, many religions, a lot of things going on. So that grounding in your inner life, in the health of your inner life, is we feel really important. So when we talk about the spiritual, it's to do with another word we use, it's like consciousness, and basically your development as an individual, and that your inner life is solid and a great foundation for taking on the challenges of a documentary filmmaker. So we do use the word spiritual in the very broadest sense of the word. And I think there's another thing that goes with that, and it's to do with core values, right? The core values of a documentary filmmaker, which we, embrace, which are ones that allow you to be open, compassionate, authentic, and basically be able to be a witness to other people's experience, to be empathic and to understand that experience, be interested in that experience, and to want to represent that experience in your documentary work in a very creative way that is compelling, that tells the stories, the millions of stories that are out there in terms of our world at this time, in this universe, amongst all our family of human beings, but also the planet, the cosmos, all the animals, all the things that, the whole range of documentary filmmaking. So you can see that in its scope, it's extremely broad and embracing. You as a filmmaker might choose a particular area to work on, but spiritual to us is that healthy, vibrant, open, very real and authentic inner life, which makes it possible, which is a firm foundation, a great foundation to be a documentary filmmaker.
This is wonderful. It's like, the discipline of documentary film itself calls for us to be developed in multiple areas of our lives. And that it in itself is expanding. You need to have a level of technical brain to know about the cameras and the editing and the software and all of that. You need to have an artistic brain to kind of see the unseen, see where no one else is seeing something, have refined perception, refined vision to the thing. There's this storytelling aspect that you actually understand the human condition to a degree that you can pull a story out of reality. There is the dimension of meeting people where they are, as you mentioned, anywhere around the world, from any faith, from any tradition, from no tradition. And you end up in situations where, as a documentary filmmaker, where you have to have a level of universality to you, a level of coming at the world with a level of curiosity. So the discipline itself calls for so much of you to be present, to be available, to be expanded, to be developed. And I feel like one of the advantages we have at MIU is that we put you as the learner, as the documentary filmmaker at the center of it all, because it can be quite demanding. So I found myself sometimes filming with war refugees, with like really intense stories. I know, Stuart, you've done some very intense stories and stories that will take you to the limit of what it means to be human when you hear these stories. And then having that inner spiritual foundation in the broad way that you define spiritual is such such a strong basis, such a real platform from which you can face the world and you can allow yourself to be expanded and learn and approach things with curiosity.
Yeah, and I think, to add to that, all those, really important aspects of what we mean by spiritual. Using that word also doesn't mean that there's any determination of what would be in the content of the film. That's a separate thing. The film content is according to what the individual filmmaker wants to film, stories that they want to tell. So, David Lynch talked about consciousness and the inner life and all the rest of it. But then, his films obviously are some of them have quite dark themes. So there's quite a range. He's exploring a range of human experience. So in a similar way, this foundation that we say is the inner development, and broadly speaking, your spiritual health and development, your evolution as a filmmaker, is not deterministic. It doesn't in any way determine the content or the direction of the filmmaking that you undertake. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I think that one of the qualities that documentary filmmakers have is that they're like an incredible witness to what's going on around them, and they really can. They have that foundation within themselves, and a reduced level of noise is another way of thinking about it, so that they pick up the signals from around them in a very clear way. And it's those signals that you get from this, what you're filming and the people that you're filming and the situation that you're filming, that is the basis of what you do with it creatively. So that clearness inside, that openness inside, that receptivity and empathy is really what creates the wonderful, clear receptivity, which then guides you in documentary filmmaking and also guides you as regards to the creative aspect of your filmmaking.
It's like there's two stories going on when you set out to make a documentary film. There's the story that you share with the people out in the world, and then there's the story that you as the filmmaker experience. And that in itself has a spiritual dimension. And then if you have a spiritual dimension to your life, then that story is that much richer. Both stories get enriched by it. Your inner story, what you experience and how you grow as a human being from working on documentaries, and then the story itself gains a level of clarity, gains a level of depth to it, a level of appreciation for the subtle nuances. That's the other aspect. It's like there's a thing, in our program, all students practice transcendental meditation, and the faculty also practice transcendental meditation. And it's a core and fundamental to our university and to this MFA program. And then tuning in with your meditation develops intuition, develops the ability to be in touch with the subtle impulses within you that you can follow, that you can trust your guts in certain situations, that you can pull apart some very subtle things that are going on in the story, some subtle currents, and you're able to see them more clearly and pull them apart. Do you have experience with that, Stuart? And is that something that...
Yeah, one of the things I think that is one of the great things about being a documentary filmmaker, one of the key aspects of the journey, it is a most extraordinary journey. If you follow the life of a documentary filmmaker, honestly, in my honest opinion, there's not a lot that can compete with it in terms of, if you really embrace it, the range of experiences, the power of the experiences, the nature of the experiences that you'll have as a documentary filmmaker. It really is quite an incredible thing. It's almost like a godly journey in a way, because you are this being that travels across cultures, situations, issues, loads of different people from all around the world and all these different places and everything. These experiences at the very sort of basic level of people trying to survive, to the very sort of like organizational level, maybe government and environmental policy or things like this. So the range of things that you move through is really quite vast, and you need to navigate that and find your way through that. But that's like, setting out this incredible journey, and you don't know the end point, and you don't know all the stories that you'll come across along the way as a filmmaker, and that you will be surprised many, many times. You will be moved. You will be moved beyond measure, and I'm sure many of you have already experienced that, if you're filmmakers, by the experiences that you have when you meet people and you are in the unique position of being invited into their world to share their experience in a way that is normally not accessible necessarily, unless you are part of them, their family, or part of their community. It's a very unique experience in that respect. I think one of the beautiful, beautiful things about it is that we all maybe what we don't, when you've made documentary filmmaker for a little while, you start to learn a few things along the way. One of the things that you learn is like that we all live inside our bubbles, right? And they're transparent most of the time to us. So we don't see the bubbles that we live inside. Might sound a bit strange to be talking about bubbles, but I do like talking about bubbles.
Let's talk about bubbles, Stuart.
So, what do I mean by those bubbles? The bubbles are basically you born into a country at a certain time, at a certain point in history. You're in this body, in this sort of like moment, in this vast universe of a vast scale of time. There's a specific culture, there's a specific cultural influence, there may be a belief system influence. There's all these things that go into formulating the networks in your brain and influencing your thinking and the way that you see the world from very early on. And if you don't move, you won't see the bubbles that you live inside. It's only if you move that you can appreciate them. And the more that you move, the more you realize how many bubbles there are. And there's a lot. There's a lot of bubbles. Nothing wrong with bubbles per se, but the beautiful thing about when you're a filmmaker and you go to different cultures and you immerse yourself in all these different things and you learn all these different things and you have all these experiences, then you see the bubbles that you live in. And more than that, you're able to walk through them. They become invisible. They're like, if they have this power, almost like a shield around you, which is both good, but also maybe filters things as well. You can step outside all of them. And you're in a primary state of receptivity, and that is a whole different experience. And it might sound a bit funky as I've described it, but you know it when you experience it. You'll know it. You'll know it for sure. And this is where you have moments when you're filmmaking, when the universe opens up for you and you perceive deep, deep human truths. And they are not ideas, they are experiences. Documentary filmmaking is based upon apps, not ideas. It's based upon human experiences, the actualities of our existence. I'm going to put a full stop there for a moment.
Well, this is beautiful. I love the concept of the bubbles and how it's you're describing such a real experience that we go through. It makes me think also of, I've been in so many interviews, and maybe some of the people here who have made documentaries, where there's something about having a camera pointed at somebody and you're fully there, open and curious, with just ears, and wait and asking questions that people will answer to you. And so many times I've had people say, I have not shared this with my wife. I have not shared this with my siblings. I have not shared this with my best friends. But because of this situation that's here, I'm able to articulate it, or I'm able to put it together. I'm able to share it. And there's so much depth that comes out of that. There's the other aspect, which is so many times, when you work in fiction, it's all about transformation that characters go through. But here you are in documentary and you're capturing a story, and oftentimes you're seeing that transformation of people's lives, or of entire environments, of entire countries even. You're in the midst of that transformation and you're living it with them. And it's like that witnessing aspect is such a big thing in documentary. And this is, witnessing has a spiritual dimension to it, and sort of like meditating and having our awareness and developing that inner self develops this ability to be a witness to life. And to be a witness to life is being a documentary filmmaker, ultimately.
So that's broadly speaking, I hope captured for you what we mean by using the word spiritual, and how the inner life is so important to the documentary filmmaker, and that as you progress as a filmmaker, you do actually become more able and stronger and faster at moving through different kind of levels of life. And it's like being in an ocean, and you can just move between them, move across the coral reef and be in lots of different kind of ecosystems, because that's what's required of a documentary filmmaker. It's so different than where you do a job and you go to office and you're with a company, and you're with a group of people, and you can spend years in that same location with the same people and having a great thing. I've never wanted to do that myself. I've never been of interest to me. You know, there's this calling, that this thing that speaks to you that's like, no, no, you know, just get out there. Let's experience this world. Let's take on some of its terribly complex and difficult issues. Let's experience the different cultures in the world, the different situations in the world. You know, let's not just read about it, let's be in it in different, you know, as a filmmaker in different projects. And hopefully, through our work, you know, give voice and represent those experiences around the world and those issues and have an impact through our work.
Beautiful. Yeah. So, we did say we'll share some of the practices that we have at MIU. I'll give you a few things. Well, one thing is our MFA is built within a consciousness-based institution. MIU has been doing consciousness-based education for 50 years. And I like to think of it as like an experiment in education, where people say, developing the individual, the learner, the person who's the doer, is as important as giving them the skills and the knowledge and the techniques and the methodologies for being a documentary filmmaker. Developing who you are as a person is as important as learning the skill and the craft of documentary filmmaking. And there's this beautiful thing that happens when you're doing these two things together, is that on one hand, you're developing as an individual and you're growing that inner self. And by doing, you start to bring in all the insights, all the silence, all the richness of that inner world into your outer experience. And perception starts to get a little bit more subtle, like you're able to see things maybe others are not able to see. And this meditate and create is such a beautiful combo, because in one end you're developing as an individual, and in the other end you're sharing who you are with the world by creating. So that's the foundation of what we have at MIU, is transcendental meditation. And in fact, the first semester, when all the students arrive to our MFA, first there's an in-person residency, and those who have not learned transcendental meditation will have transcendental meditation teachers, and we learn on campus, and then we meditate together as part of the residency. As part of class, also we meditate together before classes, and we have a course dedicated to TM and the creative process. And within this course, it's not just you not only get a full setup and a full support for your meditation practice, but you also get to dive into topics like intuition, the nature of desire and its role in the creative process. How does David Lynch catch ideas, and what can we learn from that? What is your creative process? Can you describe it? Does an artist have to suffer to create? These are some of the topics that we go into. It's like an inner exploration at the same time as you're learning the skills of documentary filmmaking with Stuart. So it's really at the heart of things. But as far as simple tools that you can apply, I would say being present with any tasks that you do, not to scatter the mind too much, just being present with the things that you're doing, and to dig deep into something, and to really get in touch with your intuition. As part of the program, we really give you an opportunity to develop that in an experimental way. But these are some of the simple tools that we have, but quite powerful tools. Do you have something else to add, Stuart, to this?
I think, one of the things that is a feature of the program is that we're very You know, we like to sort of jump into the ocean. We like to swim. We like to get at it pretty quick. We don't spend a lot of time, just intellectualizing and talking and everything. We get onto it pretty quick. So when you join the MFA, you get into filmmaking almost straight away. You get into a creative process straight away. What we're about is, the process of doing, of actually creating, and there's no substitute for that in terms of learning. So with the guidance and mentorship and with the tools that you need, it's immediate. From day one, this is a creative journey, which is about exploration of different ideas. And, in terms of development of the individual filmmakers have within them these seed ideas, these inspirations, these visions that they have. And, they come fairly regularly, and, some of them stick around, some of them fly away. But when you get into the program, those inspirations become actual projects. And those projects become finished things that create a very powerful portfolio of short films and a feature film, and lots of other creative endeavors, explorations along the way, because we're very much about exploring the full spectrum of possibilities in filmmaking with all the new techniques, all the new technology, all the AI. Yeah, it's good to, we swim in the ocean of it all, and it's very vibrant, colorful, amazing sort of experience as a collective of people, of filmmakers and stuff. So that connectivity is one of the qualities that really comes out of development of the filmmaker, especially when you combine that with what we were talking about with the inner life and development and evolution of, your own personal journey and qualities and potential. So, we combine all those things within the program in a very coherent way. And, we know from experience that helps to unleash, let loose, unbound huge amounts of creativity and vision from the filmmakers who join the program.
Yeah, it's cohort based and then mentorship based. And then it's just you're creating the whole time. You're just making stuff. And you're doing it with an amazing community of people. It's not we have experience with this both with the David Lynch MFA in screenwriting. We have quite an extensive experience in low residency programs. We have experience with the cinematic arts program. The cohorts that get created are just absolutely amazing. Usually film programs or in the creative arts, it can be competitive. It can be a little bit cutthroat. And this is the complete opposite. It's like we're here, everybody who joins is here to support one another. So it's like cohort based, but it's also, you get mentorship, direct mentorship for your projects, individualized attention to work on your projects. So that also is one of those aspects of that we care about you as an individual, as a human being. And then we want to give you all the skills that you want to know as a filmmaker and share from the vast experience. I mean, Stuart, I mean, I don't know how many countries you've been to. I don't know how many films you've made, but here's somebody with a Foreign Press Award and Amnesty International Award. so much experience, so much depth of experience. And I've done quite a bit of work with David Lynch Foundation. I've really seen so much life transformation, filming in prisons, filming with homeless, filming with street children. Um, there are certain experiences that really enrich you. And then also making films on artists. I love making films on artists and discovering their creative process and the joy of that, and all the discoveries that are out there about the world. So it's such an open thing. It's the whole range of life. It's the whole range of life that's there. I'm going to do a little outro and then we'll take questions. There's quite a few people here. Would love to hear from you. So let me share some key information with you here, and then we'll do a Q&A session. So our next entry is in February 2026, and applications are open right now. And yeah, there's an apply button everywhere on the MIU website. So it's very easy to do that. You can also request info, and we have an info pack on our documentary program that will be sent to you. This is part of the series, DocuCafe. So the next one, put in your calendars, November 5th, The Life of a Documentary Filmmaker. You probably will get emails for it, but if you don't, just reach out to us, go to our website, register for it, DocuCafe. And then these webinars are going to be edited and shared, very lightly edited, but they're going to be shared on this webpage, and there's a QR code. So let's see. Any questions in the Q&A? What kind of work can one have after earning the degree? Do you want to speak to that, Stuart?
Well, again, I think one of the great things about filmmaking is how many things that you sort of learn. Think about all the things that go into a film. So there's writing, the original research. So, you gain experience as a researcher into different subjects and writing them up in proposals and producing scripts and copy, and then there's all the logistical planning, which is for films is quite intense, and then there's the cameras and sound and music, interviewing. It could be a journalism aspect, or it depends on the kind of films that you make. But essentially, there's a broad range of skills which you can acquire from becoming a documentary filmmaker. And in a modern economy that everything is about, so much is about content now. It's just a vast, vast consumption of content. And interestingly, I think documentaries is, in a way, recently at least, benefited to a certain degree by the new platforms that are available, and maybe there's a little bit more exposure to documentaries, opportunities for documentaries because of that. And so, that's a great thing. I think making a really powerful film as a documentary filmmaker really does open up a lot of avenues for work within the creative industries. So that's been our experience, that people go on from our very practical programs to work in the creative industries in various roles, everything from producers, directors, art directors, script writers, working in social media, animation, a very wide range. And that's not going away for sure. There's all sorts of impacts from new technology and AI and all the rest of it. But the human dimension of creativity is not going away. It's still hugely important. And so we see a lot of opportunity from acquiring the skills that you do acquire in becoming a documentary filmmaker.
And I'll add to that that this is a terminal degree in MFA degree is a terminal degree, so there's the possibility to teach as well in the creative arts in this field. But as Stuart mentioned, like there's so much that you learn that's so practical that you can go into all kinds of dimensions with it. We find that our students, do end up continuing to work within the creative fields. It's not always that they just make films, and I'm speaking about undergraduate students, but sometimes you could be like a content creator for different companies. You can be your own content creator. There's jobs that are within the documentary world, but within the commercial world, because you can be an editor, you can be a cinematographer, you can be a sound person. You learn these skills by doing them. So it's like a nicely well-rounded education because you learn by doing. So you're actually practicing for the whole time that you're with us for the 2 years. So I hope this answers the question. Great. We have somebody from Seattle who's made films for over 20 years. Wonderful. It's great to hear. Okay, so there's a technical question. As a beginner, I have a technical question when it comes to editing a documentary. When combining new 4K footage with older archival clips, what's the best approach for project and export settings to keep the final project looking high quality and cohesive, especially if delivering 4K? It's a great question. Do you want me to answer that, Stuart, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, there are multiple creative ways to do this. For example, you can take your clips, let's say you have archival footage, and because it's archival footage, an audience is okay with that archival footage looking a little bit not as fresh as your nice 4K footage. But there's ways to treat it a little bit. I worked on a history documentary recently, edited a feature history documentary, and we had a lot of footage that needed some work. I found that Neat Video, it's a plugin you buy that cleans the digital noise from a clip, was very useful. I also found that with my clips, and I don't know if you can do this but you can be creative with it. Like I found some templates where your video clip is inside of a TV, or if it is inside of like an old archival machine, or you blend it together and add some different colors to really show that it's archival footage, and then you can play with it that way. Or at times it's like people understand that this is archival footage. We've used also Topaz AI to take clips from like we had clips that were like at 360p, and we couldn't bring them all the way to 4K, but we were able to upgrade them to like 720p, for example. So you could go creative with it, or you can just put your archival footage in there and create like a motif for it so that people know that this is archival footage. Or you can just blend it right in, use Neat Vid, clean the image a little bit with, if you're using DaVinci, you can have like a noise remover which is within DaVinci, and it will help out. So hopefully this answers your questions. RUFM production. Okay, there's another question in the chat. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, what equipment is needed for the classes? Can we shoot on an iPhone, or do we need a more professional camera? Thanks, Robert, for that question. Well, I mean, there's a range of exercises in the MFA, so you certainly can experiment with shooting on an iPhone, particularly with some of the more recent iPhones and the additional equipment that you can get with them, shoot in RAW and so on. So you can do that, but we also do have recommendations for equipment that would be good to use. We do like, we do think that it's quite important to learn the kind of cameras that are being used for documentary filmmaking. FX6, FX9, Canon cameras, C80, the 400. Things move very fast all the time. There's certainly even higher. There's a next step up from there as well with ARRI cameras and so on. So we do recommend getting experience with cameras that give you sort of standard of footage that you would be able to put into a cinema and be there featured in a festival, and that they would be happy with in some of the larger festivals, because that's a good goal to have, to be able to produce films that would be selected for really good festivals. That's a very useful and good way of building your network and your careers.
Yeah, I'll add this to that. It's whatever you put in, you're gonna get out of it, and it's good for during the 2 years to have some practice with real cinema cameras, with things that will give you the tools to really catch things at a high level without having to think too hard, or without running into battery dying on you, or without running into just weird sound. uh Stuart and I shot some films where we needed to complement some footage with iPhone footage, and we did, and we color graded it, and it looked okay. It didn't look as, but the bulk of the film was shot on an FX6 or a C70 or any of these cinema cameras. There is the most entry level cinema camera that we have for some undergraduate students is the Sony FX30. It's a really nice, nifty camera with good audio, because you'll notice that documentary really relies on audio as well. And so the FX30 has like an XLR handle. And then there's the Canon just recently came out with the C50. And then Sony has the FX3. So there are cameras at a, entry level. There's also older cameras that still shoot 4K. They're still really good. And we have partnership with Adorama, who has like an insane amount of used gear for lenses for older cameras. And they've been quite good to us for our undergraduate program. So yeah, the FS7, exactly, Alejandro. Yes, the FS7 is a great camera. It's still it's still doing the thing. And it has ND filters. That was a legend, that camera, the FS7. That one and the C300 Mark II, which we have, and I still shoot with it sometimes, the C300 Mark II. But technology changes quite a bit, and we want you to be equipped with the gear that you're going to be using beyond the MFA. So you'll purchase the gear, we'll support you with that, but we'll get you going. Yeah. So I think this brings us to the end of our webinar. I hope you got some good information out of it and some good knowledge. Thank you so much for your time, for your questions, for your attention. We're here. If you apply or you request info you're going to be part of some emails that will come to you. And in one of those emails, there's going to be the opportunity to speak to us, to Stuart and I, automatically. We have a calendar office hours, and we love talking to people. So enjoy. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll connect
thanks,
again on
everybody.
November 5th. Yes.
Thanks everyone for joining in. Do join us on the next one. And as Amin said, you can always talk to us. You can always book a time to talk to us if you'd like to talk about any other aspects of the MFA and filmmaking and so on. So we're always keen to do that and make connection with you so that we can talk. That'd be great. But thanks for joining us for this evening.
All right. We'll just I'm gonna share my screen here with this is the QR for the webinar replays when they're gonna come out, and then this is the QR for our website. All right. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Bye for now.